I'm going to stop the screen share here in a second. And I love the fact that send me that song, please. Okay, yeah. The song is it's called Angels, and it's Wax Poetic, Elan Urhin. I messed that up. And Nora Jones, who is Ravi Shankar's daughter. She had that one hit that was out there. All right, so I see that Charles, you're the only person that stuck with me. So it looks like maybe I only have, here, there's another person. Welcome to my show. Welcome to my live stream today. I'm kind of doing an impromptu live stream. As you can tell, my hair is wet and I don't have a blow dryer. So I thought, well, you know what? I've been wanting to kind of recap on some stuff on my channel. And I don't think I did a live stream last week. I did upload a short video explaining about what I had going on on Spotify. But I thought what I do is just kind of like maybe do the show while my hair was drying, and then I just kind of like flat iron it after that. So you've gone 80s. Well, like, yeah, I mean, this is just to show all the women out there that want to say that I have a wig or that I'm a clone or something. This is actually my wet hair. So I can prove that this is not right here a wig. I have in the past worn wigs before. I've worn hair pieces before because I like to, because it's fun. And I get bored looking the same. But I thought since it gets so much criticism sometimes, I thought, you know what, let me just go with my own hair. And then when I go with my own hair, people don't believe that it's my hair. So I can't win for losing. But I guess if I show up wet, I can prove that, that I'm officially not really a clone. I mean, I cut this, so I don't, does clone hair grow? Those of you who may be up on the subject of cloning, you probably go, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? A clone? Okay, so the rumor is that I'm a clone, and my consciousness has been co-opted because I guess I criticize things and call people out on certain things. So that their answer to that is, well, it's probably better than being called an alcoholic failed comedian living in a trailer or something like that. Speaking of comedians, that this is I wanted to talk about this a little bit today because we did have the Academy Awards on Sunday night. Not sure if this particular demographic of people that follow UFOlogy are so much caring about, what celebrities do, or that they award themselves for great performances or anything like that. But in my family, when I was growing up, the Academy Awards was a really big deal. Like my mom is a huge movie buff. I grew up obviously I'm in media. So I have a love for filmmaking, and also, I took a class last semester and wrote my first act for a screenplay that I'm working on. So I worked on independent films, and I have also played parts in them, and I've done other things like assistant to the producers and script supervisor and casting and all of that stuff. So the Academy Awards is a big deal. Now, I wasn't watching it to be honest with you. Hollywood is I've had issues with the entertainment industry, and the things that they're doing, the way celebrities are used. Okay, let's just leave it at that. All right. I mean, that's a whole nother, I could go down a whole nother rabbit hole on that conversation, but I think, we're already kind of on the same page with everything. But because I am a comedian, believe it or not, I know like people like Jolie Bridgeburner is out there telling everybody that she thinks it's great to tell people that I'm a failed comedian. And that, I guess like the census out there with some of these guys is that I failed, but that's not true. I worked professionally for 25, 30 years on the circuit in clubs. I'd done that for 10 years before I even got television exposure. So like when you sit behind your little computer and you tell people that, that I'm a failed comedian, like I feel that for you to do something like that, you're commenting on something that I spent like most of my life doing. And, like I should care about it, but I do care about it because it is my business. And I'm not retired, by the way. I haven't stopped, toying in my mind. Like, as a matter of fact, I just got a booker here where I'm at, just to start to get up on stage again, hopefully, but there are circumstances that make it difficult for a person to be hired as a comedian. One is the mandates that are going on with the audience and with the performers themselves. So that's a big limiting factor, right? There were tons of out-of-work comedians for the last 2 years, and most of them were doing these Zoom shows and, trying to get by and a whole bunch of other things. But for me, I took a detour in my life. Like it was more like a detour, not a failure. It's like I became, interested in documenting protests through social media. I became an online radio host for many different platforms besides this channel or anything that had to do with UFOlogy. So, and now I'm wanting to go back to school and learn journalism, and I'm working on my writing. Like, people decide to do different things with their life at certain points of their life in whatever direction they want to walk into. But just because they decide to change their mind or have a financial hardship or a rough period in their life does not make that person a failure. And, if we want to get woo about everything, if you want to get woo about it, about what life is and how nothing's ever really temporary or whatever, we really shouldn't get caught up in any one time frame and compare it to the other, because our very reality is constantly fluid and changing. So when you go on, like social media, or you gang up with your little gang and you decide to target somebody and say nasty things about them in that certain sense, you're not only like trying to harm the person on an emotional level, which really shouldn't be acceptable, but you're also like defaming their character in a public forum that could have financial repercussions for them later on. I'm not saying that, someone like, and I didn't mean to make this about Jolly Bridge Burner, but somebody that, like, she doesn't have that much power. I mean, you can look at videotapes, of me doing shows and getting laughs and everything. It's like, it's not like you can't look online and see, like, I can't go to a booker and go, hey, this is my, routine or whatever. I could go audition someplace. I could go to an open mic night and, get picked up, on something, just because comedy is a subjective thing. What one person thinks is funny is not what another person might think is funny. And, when you do stand-up comedy, like, every night can be different for you. Just because you killed the night before doesn't mean, the next night you did great either. Like, the old joke was when someone came up and said, or we caught ourselves doing it. They go, oh, I really loved your show. And you're like, on Friday. And you go, were you at the first show or the second one? Because the second one could have been shit for you, or the first one could have been difficult. It wasn't easy. Sometimes the audience isn't forthcoming. Sometimes they're tight, or sometimes, you say something and, you were offending people, because we're talking about the free speech. We're talking about like the First Amendment, and what happened to Chris Rock was really like a slap in the face for making a joke, and making an old joke. It wasn't even a great joke. It wasn't even contemporary, really. It was like, it was making a 20-year reference to a film that, you know, it probably isn't going to, well, now it's going to have longevity, you know, because it's been mentioned again. But it's so weird to think about hair. Like, I started with hair, right? About like these women, you know, online, you know, that going, oh, that's a wig, and you know, you're bald underneath there, and you know, all this kind of stuff. Like that, like what is it with women and their hair, really? You know, like it's like either there's a jealousy because somebody has good hair, or you know, or you get, or if a woman has a short haircut, you know, like maybe it means that she's considered masculine or boyish or GI Jane, you know, like I'm in the military. You know, there's all these stereotypes and things that are surrounding hair, and yet it's still a joke. I mean, like, first of all, if you are a public personality, just like Jolly Bridgeburn are talking shit about me, right? I mean, I can comment on what she says in response to it. I should be allowed to say it. I should be allowed to tell people, you know, that don't know my background. I should be allowed to say, hey, you know, that's not exactly accurate what you're saying, and you keep repeating it over and over, you know, just because she says it doesn't mean it's true. But, you know, because I am a public personality, even if it's just here on YouTube, I got to take that shit on some level. Like, if you put it out there, then you got to expect that you're going to get the shit back, or that, you know, the world isn't going to be like, you know, overjoyous at the things that you're saying or doing. But you don't get slapped in the face for it. You know, like, I'm not going to get on a plane and go to Australia and punch Jolly Bridgeburner out. Like, that's not acceptable. And, you know, it's weird that I'm drawing, like, you know, targeted harassment on the internet to like a joke. It's not exactly the same, you know, where you have a faceless entity, you know, saying whatever they want to say out of it, and it's not meant to be funny, but still it's a negative comment that can be construed about somebody, even if it comes, you know, in the form of a joke. Hi, Jeff. I'm seeing you guys are here late to the party. Great show with Mr. Cambion, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, it was the show was a lot of fun, and I really it's the first time I've ever been on Stephen Cambion's show, not as a part of a roundtable, or when he did his 400th show, I was the co-host, or one of the co-hosts, along with Spooky, that we kind of traded off on the marathon show, and that show was really fun and epic. And then I've had Steven on. I did a roundtable back in December here, and so he was on it. And I always have a lot of fun with Steven. I think, you know, I heard a rumor that I think Steven, well, he's even mentioned it on his show that C.W. Chanter was saying that Stephen was a copy of him or something, and I don't think that at all. I think that you know, Stephen produces a really good show. I mean, he's a better producer at it than I am on this one. I mean, he's got an intro, and you know, he works hard at what he does, and he really does research something or contemplate something. He's presenting material to people for people to contemplate. Honestly, I think I'm off the topic of Chris Rock right now, and I'm going to circle around to that again. I think Chanter, by the way, he did something to his hair, right? Talking about hair. C.W. Chanter doesn't have any more hair anymore. Like, he's like, the beard's gone and the hair's gone. It was like, I didn't watch the video yet, but I looked at his channel, and he did a tribute to Jordan Maxwell, and he's completely shaved. I wondered, did the drapes match the carpet, Chanter? No, I'm kidding. Okay, that was I could have been misogynist on my part as a woman. Are you harassing a man? Sexual innuendo. How dare you? That's what I thought today when Chandler had shaved his head and his beard off. I go, do the drapes match the carpet? So look, I'm trying to find a place of love in all of this, right? Because comedy kind of, in a way, is more of a there's an element, I think, in comedy that has an element of love to it. It's like you're kind of telling the truth about something. I mean, yeah, it might sound rude, but then it's still funny. I mean, it can be borderline bullying. Comedy can be borderline bullying. There were comedians back in the day like Sam Kinison. Here in the United States. I don't know if you know who that. In the 80s, like Kinison, I guess he died in like 1990, early 90s. But I mean, I just feel like we're never going to see something like that again. It's been interesting to see like the comedians' reactions, because on my Facebook page, most of my friends are comics. I'd say at least 60%, maybe I don't know, when I say 70%, at least 65% of my friends on Facebook are comedians that I've worked with over the years. I mean, like I said, I've been around a long time. I mean, I was hanging at the Comedy Store when Sam Kinison was there. I was doing open mic night when Sam Kinison was a big star on stage. And, I watched Andrew Dice Clay break out, on the scene. I tell the story, where I went to a party with the people from the Comedy Store at the Chateau Marmont. And, the Comedy Store, there would always be a piano player that would play in the interludes before you get up to, go on stage. In the original room, his name was Dean. And, I was talking to Dean at the party, and he said, "Oh, have you ever seen Andrew Dice Clay before?" I go, "No," and he goes, "Oh, he's great." He's standing right there, and I turned my head, and he was in the the white coat with the the black the jacket, his famous look, and the hair was slicked back, like right before he hit it. And I don't know if you guys see this in people, but sometimes you can look at somebody and you just know they have it. Like it's just like they have an aura or an energy about them. And you're like, yeah, that guy. It's even before they get on stage that you know that they're going to be good. All right. And one of the things that, people, by and large, comics have been are risky. They say if you don't offend somebody, you're not really a good comic. Like, it doesn't matter. Someone is apt to get offended by what you were saying, but you don't get slapped in the face for it. Like, you shouldn't be. See, right now, I think what a lot of comics are concerned about, and what I'm seeing that they're posting, is they feel that that Will Smith hasn't had any repercussions for what he did. And I don't know if you guys saw the video of Jim Carrey on, I guess he was on Extra with Gayle King. Jim Carrey, is pretty much, he's disgusted by the fact that after he did that, Will Smith got a standing ovation. Like, he sat there and cried fake tears, and there are comedians calling him out on that. Like, the comics aren't fooled by Will Smith acting his way out of what he did and how he accepted the award. And a lot of comics are upset. They feel that that he should have been like either arrested, or he should have like he should have to stand in court for it. That maybe Chris Rock has a lawsuit. Like, a lot of people are, and they feel that it is an infringement on our free speech. And then for example, I watched the Jimmy Dore show. All right. I like watching Jimmy Dore. I've worked with Jimmy Dore before out of the Ice House over the years, and I find it interesting the way he's gone in his media and the platforms that he's done, and the grand conversation that he has. I have a lot of respect for Jimmy Dore. And he was pointing out the same thing, like reading things about, like talking about Will Smith's fake tears, talking about like how is this acceptable? How is this okay? And then he showed tweets of people saying, "Oh, well, she's got alopecia, and you really shouldn't say those things," and blah 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 blah. And and I know I sound like going when I'm reading those things, like it's like this softy kind of, "Oh, don't joke about us, don't do this, don't do that." You know what I mean? It's like it's a joke. Did he know? Did he know she had alopecia? Did she know? Did he know that Jada Pinkett had alopecia? Maybe he didn't. Maybe. Look, there's a possibility that joke was written in the teleprompter and it was rehearsed and part of the entire night's performance. Like, people write jokes for the comedian that goes and does presentations at the Academy Awards. Matter of fact, one of the guys who is oftentimes on Jimmy Dore's show, I forgot his name right now, but I've noticed that he's there a lot via the internet with him. He's not in the studio with him. He mentions that Chris Rock wanted him to write for him for the Academy Awards. He had written for him previously, but he was working on a couple of other projects and pretty much just blew it off. And so, and then he goes, "Oh my God, I wish I did write for him because this is what's happened." So it was a collaboration in the material that was presented. I mean, come on, look what the things that Ricky Gervais said at the Golden Globe Awards, and it's just shocking to see Will Smith do what he said. And then Tiffany Haddish. By the way, Tiffany, you stole Ludovica's material, girlfriend. I know I don't mean anything to you. We just passed in the night on the Ludovica's funny burlesque show at the Frida Kahlo Theater, but you ripped off her bored stripper routine. I know that sounds weird, but she stole somebody else's material, just like freaking Carlos Mencia. You take people's material that didn't get the big shot that you do, and then you ruin some of their best bits, their signature bits for them to perform in clubs because you took it and put it out someplace in the public that was more for more eyes to go on. Tiffany Haddish is going, "Oh, well, Will Smith is just defending his wife." Are you kidding me? What? Because somebody said something, made a joke about, like, a comedian made a joke about a famous woman's really short hair and called it out or whatever. Look, it wasn't okay. And, my opinion, I kind of made a joke. I go, look, if I got slapped in the face, I would have to go to therapy after that. And I joke about, I make a joke about it, but probably I would. It would have been traumatic. And the Academy Awards, the grandeur of it all, the presentation, the history of it, in an atmosphere like that, you're not, Will Smith wasn't in some bar, in Pocatello, Idaho, drinking or whatever, and then just goes, "I don't like you," and boom, something like that going on. He won the award. He does it at the Academy Awards. Does anybody not get that? Why wasn't he automatically, why didn't security come and grab him and put handcuffs on him for doing it? Well, it probably one reason is that when you watch it, when I first saw it on Twitter, this is how I found out about it. I happened to take a break from my studying, and I looked over, or I was working on an assignment that I had to turn in, And I looked over at my Facebook page and I see a comedian named Jeff Penn, like, you know, like he shared the tweet on Facebook about it happening. And then I looked at the tweet, and for a minute I thought it wasn't real. I think we all felt that. He's like, you heard this smack, and it kind of looked like he went up and went like that, right? Like it was like, you know, and you know, like as if he hit his hand, like it was a stage slap or punch. And then you realize it looks like it's real. So I said, did Chris Rock, did Will Smith just pop? Did I see what I thought on Twitter correctly? I mean, did Chris Rock, I'm sorry, I had that same thing, just pop them in the face? Love your passion and truth, Terry. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad. It's nice to hear that you love that, because, you know, like instead of like, you know, no, you don't, I'm going to pop you in the face for saying it, right? people do that. I've been watching it. I've been watching it come down, like what people's reactions are. The first couple of days, you know, there were some really funny jokes that it seemed like comedians were like, the jokes were just popping, you know, like, you know, hey, Jada Smith, you know, forget about your hair. You know, why are you wearing the drapes from Gone with the Wind? You know, like that was Carrie Snow made a joke about it. Or, you know, next year at the Academy Awards, you know, the gift bags will have tasers and, you know, pepper spray. You know, there were these kind of really funny things. Like it was enjoyable to watch the jokes. And then as time went on, you know, you started to see comics write things that were long too, that how wrong they felt it was, how worried they are that it will continue, like this is what's going to happen, like we're going to be unprotected when we go on stage, like it's going to become like a social norm. And then, you know, the whole free speech thing came up. So it this morning, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Wow, drinking coffee, I almost spilled it there. Reason why I wanted to talk about a little bit, because there's a local TV host, morning host named Steve Edwards, and I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he did a live stream this morning. And Bill Kirchenbauer, the comedian Bill Kirchenbauer, who was you know, on the, I think it was on a sitcom named The 10 of Us. Anyways, he's a sitcom star too, but he was like, I think one of the first people in the San Francisco comedy competition. I don't know if it was the first year or the second one or the third one, but early on in the legacy of that, because the San Francisco comedy competition is a big deal too for comedians. And a lot of past comedians have either won it or done it. Like I was in the competition. I did the San Francisco comedy competition in like 2 years, but Bill Kirchenbauer won that one year, I believe. There was a year where it was Bill Kirchenbauer, Vic Dunlap, and why am I forgetting his name right now? Oh, he's a hippie. Like he looks like David Crosby. God, how can I forget his name right now? It'll come to me later. Bruce Baum. Where maybe you guys don't know these names. You probably don't. But they belong to an era of comedy that started when there was this show called Make Me Laugh on television, and the original, like the one in the 70s. And then that kind of started the road, really, because people were seeing comedians on shows like that, and then they wanted to see them in a club. And so and there was the comedy clubs really came into boom here in the United States at about the mid 80s. Okay, so, but I didn't work on the road until the 90s. I missed, there was a big time where the money was better, you know, a lot of drugs. Okay. I wasn't in that area. There was a lot of cocaine in the 80s with the comedian circuit. And a matter of fact, there were stories from comedians that they would play a club and the owner would come out and go, do you want to be paid in Coke or do you want cash? And some people took the Coke. So now later on in the 90s, when I started working professionally, let me see. I used to get little tiny gigs, that paid me like $5-10 in the beginning, right? And then I would get MC spots in like the Long Beach Comedy Club or the Ice House. Well, the Ice House paid me like later on, but I would get paid for certain things, but not. Here's the deal about like working in LA. You don't really make any money in LA. Like the Comedy Store still has paid regulars and non-paid regulars. Like the money never really bumped up since the 90s, really, even when you're on a certain level. Now when you get to be a name and this and that, of course, your money goes a lot bigger. Okay. Bruce was pretty good back. Bruce was pretty good in the David Jackal remake. I don't, was he in that? I don't know if he was in that. Bruce Baum. Hey, Sean Atwood. Hey, nice to see you here. Wow. Yay. Yeah, Sean Atwood, you guys. That's the first time I've ever seen Sean Atwood in my chat. So, but yeah, so Jen Angel. Hi. Oh, Jen Angel. Bruce Baum. I've done some videos for Bruce Baum. Sounds risque, doesn't it? Like he had a channel. There is this bit, and I thought of it too, like where he would come up to the car and then he steal something out of the car, and then another person I was doing a scene with, and we'd go, was that David Crosby that just stole that, or something like that? Like, because he really did look like David Crosby. And there was one time where he came up to the door and I gave him a sample of or he gave me a sample of sperm or something. And then I turned around and go, I think that was David Crosby, because he gave his sperm to the women. Whatever, I'm not repeating it well, but yeah, so yeah, the comedians are upset. They are upset about it. They don't like it. And I saw one person say something like, we're going to be joking about Will Smith for the rest of his life. Like you will be on our every comedian will trash you for the rest of our existence. That was like how one comedian said. But Bill Kirchenbauer was on Steve Edwards' show today, and yeah, I was blown away that Sean Atwood's here. Yeah, that's cool. I did talk about. Let me finish the Bruce Baum, and then let me get back to the mentioning of Sean Atwood on Truthseekers show. Bill Kirchenbauer, getting back to Bill Kirchenbauer, was on Facebook today on a live stream talking about Will Smith and what he thought. And Steve Edwards was exploring it and everything. And so it was just, and he's in Thailand right now. So it was interesting to hear his take on it. It's like we're kind of traumatized by it, really. I think the comics are really upset. And it's trending at the moment. What's your thoughts on Little Britain, Matt Lucas and David Williams? I don't know those guys. I don't know them. I can't believe I went after Tiffany Haddish today. Hey, you stole Ludovica's joke, bitch. Okay, I'll stop. We don't like our material taken. I mean, you could talk about the same topic, but when you take somebody's premise and you do it like word for word, it's really a problem. I mean, because sometimes a bit is your t-shirt sales. It's what defines you as a comedian, and it's just really wrong. I've seen that. Chanter looks like Matt Lucas. Oh, okay. This is my YouTube name. I never catch your live. I'm so happy to be here. I'm loving your chat. Oh, well, welcome. I know who you are, though. I know who you are from Instagram. I don't know if you want me. Jen Angel. Well, it's good to see you here today. Okay, so that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about with Chris Rock and Will Smith. We'll see how this how it plays out. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did an article that was really interesting. If you ever see that, I shared it on my Facebook, but then a friend of mine who's a comedian said that that he just felt that he didn't like the last paragraph where we think he should just be forgiven and nothing should happen to him. Like, there are comedians out there who really think that he should pay for what he did, that he just shouldn't just walk away. Yeah, he's made a public apology. Okay, because he was forced to or whatever. Like, there should be something else done. Like, if like we're just like I don't think it's gonna be something where right now it doesn't feel like everybody's gonna be able to just go, oh yeah, all right, what's next? Let's talk about the war now. I just don't think it's gonna be that way. So, okay, let's talk about Truthseekers for a moment. And I did mention Sean Atwood on Sean Atwood's show on Truthseekers. And I mentioned in the context to it with Max Spears. So I have talked about him a little bit recently. So the thing that I liked about being on that show and the things that I'm going to repeat here that I was allowed to say to his audience that, I don't have as many people on my channel. I mean, if you please like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. This is a new channel for me, and I've had it for a year now, but it was like my secondary channel. I lost my first channel because I said things on YouTube that we're no longer allowed to say. So I have to be very careful about what I do share with you here. But if you want to see me say things that I can't say here on YouTube, I am on Not My Rabbit Hole on Spotify. And that also allows me to upload video there. I think it's better to be on Spotify for me, other than say like BitChute and some of the other channels, because Joe Rogan's there, for one thing. And because Joe Rogan's on Spotify, then I think Spotify might be a little bit more not as anal as, let's say, YouTube is. And the fact that Neil Young, protest and said, I'm not going to be here anymore and blah, 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 and try to get him kicked off. And then Spotify, stood behind Joe Rogan. I just feel like I'm going to have, like, I say things already on that stream that I don't say here, or I'm willing to really tell you what I really think about things, because I feel that it's safer for me to do it over there. So I have Not My Rabbit Hole with Terry Joyce on Spotify. Please do follow me there. And again, Spotify has a new program where you can actually see video. So it's not just auditory. And then if you want to listen, I'm also on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and Anchor, because I originally started, I upload my stuff to Anchor and then it goes to the other platforms. I think it's important to, if you are being a content provider, that you do go on other platforms. That way you have a stronger algorithm. And, I like to put different types of material on different places. I look at YouTube now as kind of like when I worked in comedy clubs. There would be some clubs that said you can't say no F-bombs, no this, no that, blah, 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 blah. Don't wear a tuxedo on stage. Swear to God, there's a casino that wouldn't let you wear a tuxedo on stage. Who knows why? I don't know. It's the most bizarre rule. I've even asked them, I go, how come you can't wear a tuxedo? And like nobody had an answer for that. Some places are weird, and they have weird rules. But, there's been some gigs where they'd go, if you say the F word, we will dock you $50. And I'd be like, fuck. Okay. But so in your mind, you have to edit what you're going to say. Like, even if you are on like national television, with the FCC, you can't just say even if you had a joke where it's funnier with the F word, then you would edit the F word out and you have to replace it with something else. You just suck it up because you can't just say whatever you want on every platform. And that's the same with YouTube. Right? Like, we can't, and it's difficult, but then they say, well, we're a private company, so we can do that to you. We can cut you off because you're using our platform. Also, social media goes with the EU guidelines, right? The European Union guidelines in terms of free speech, not what Americans think they have. I mean, I know that Americans have been challenged, comedians specifically, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, they all went to the Supreme Court for the rights to free speech. Now we live in a culture that's so sensitive about everything. If you joke about something, then you're subjected to getting slapped in the face on national television during the Academy Awards. It's like the information is important right now. And, maybe the truth, or what you think the truth is not something that you're going to actually really be able to say on every platform. It's like, well, define what the truth is. And that's a real problem. Like, when you look at journalism, like what I'm learning in my journalism class, is that journalism is like the fourth branch of the government. It's like the journalists are the ones that keep everyone else in check. They keep the politician, in count. Now, I'm going from journalism to comedy, but in a way, it's kind of all the same thing. So when you are being censored, like, for example, let's talk about it for a minute, Hunter Biden's laptop, right? Like, remember what happened before the election when the New York Times came out, or the New York Post came out and talked about the laptop? Twitter and Facebook jumped in and stopped that information from being put out there. Now, look what's happening. Now, oh yeah, it was his laptop. Oh yeah, it was the press. But how come nobody cares about the fact that the social media stepped in and stopped our right to free speech? That bothers me. That bothers me. And I think it should bother any of us that to have your expression stifled, whether you like what somebody says or not. That's not the point. Just because a group of people doesn't like what you say doesn't mean that it shouldn't be said. Another dynamic that I'm learning, I like to share this with you because I'm learning, because I did go back to school. I'm learning so many things that I go, oh my God, it's kind of applying to what's happening right now. But, I am taking a persuasion speech class. And, I have a speech up here on my channel. It's titled, did the Nazis make contact with extraterrestrials? And that's my topic all the way through the semester. The first speech that I did, it only can be like about 4 minutes, but I had to give 3 different perspectives and source those perspectives, and then just kind of leave it up in the air. Because the purpose was not to convince somebody that that's true or not, but was to just give the fact. These are the different facts surrounding the topic. For the final, which is like in a couple of months, I'm taking the side of it is true. And so now I'm going to do a persuasion speech that it actually, in fact, is true. To be honest with you, I really don't know if it's actually true or not. But I think it would be fun and challenging to take it and try to prove it as a fact. But in my class, one of the topics was conformity, and part of the study was to look at Heaven's Gate, which is, the people who are in a cult that, decide that committed suicide and wore Nikes because they thought that once they got suicide, they were going to go on the mothership and, go off. Right. And about how cults happen, how groups happen like that, where they love bomb you at first. And then all of a sudden you have to be initiated, like your hair gets shaved, or like even with like sororities and fraternities, there's hazing and things that happen because when someone has to go through something that's uncomfortable like that, they actually end up having more of a commitment to it and to the ideals of the group because they went through this process. So there's a whole breakdown of how people conform to group thought. Or there were experiments where there would be a person who is supposed to say, these lines match up and blah, 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 blah. And this is what, an agreement with everybody. And like one line would be shorter than the other, one would be longer. But the group of people would argue that, no, it doesn't match. And you would say, oh, yeah, it does match. And the person who there's one person that's not in on it. But the person that's not in on it, over the study, some of them actually agreed with the group, even though they knew that the fact wasn't true. And this makes me think about a lot of things that are going on in the world. Like how people try to get you to conform or get you to, consent or do something. There's definite methods from, giving you a reward for doing it. And just think about what kind of thing have people gotten rewards for lately? Like $1 million if they did it, they would get $1 million if they did it, right? Or think about the punishment that somebody gets if they don't do it, right? Like you don't get to get hired here. Like you don't get to stand on stage and perform unless you do it, right? You see what I'm saying here? So there's this group, like we all want to be part. It's painful to stand apart from the group and say, no, this is what I really think. This is what I think. I think that's true. And I think what you're saying isn't a fact. And then if you do that, well, sometimes YouTube goes, well, you know what? We're going to take your channel down now. Right? Oh, I hope Chanter didn't join a cult, because he shaved his head and his beard. Maybe he's like, I'm sorry. See, I'm gonna do Chanter jokes now. It's for a small, not everybody knows who C.W. Chanter is. It would be only for us, only for us. I hope Chanter doesn't get mad at me for joking about his not having any hair. I know it's not alopecia related, right? It's not, right? Okay, so I just kind of wanted to express. Now let me get back to Sean Atwood and Stephen Cambion show. Shout out to Sean Atwood. Talking about somebody who's bald. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Yeah, he didn't have any hair either. But he looks good bald, right? Okay, Sean Atwood. The reason why I did mention Sean Atwood was about Max Spears and in terms of Max Spears. And the one thing that I was able to say on the show, one of the first things I think was important was that the belief that he died from an overdose, that Max Spears died from an overdose. Technically, not really. All right, because it wasn't determined as that being the sole way, like the reason why he died. The toxicology report, said that he had the Turkish form of Xanax. He had heroin in his system. He also had pneumonia, which any of those things, they were all at, according to them, at toxic levels. So any of those things could happen. So it was kind of like, that was just like what came out. When you get a toxology report, you get, they say, well, this person had this, this, and this in their body. This is the determination of death. A lot of times the purpose of the forensic analysis is not to like really give determine what the death was. I mean, it isn't, but it doesn't really. It's like, here's the information. Now, if it was to go to court, the forensic anthropologist or the forensic analyst would be in the courtroom, and then it would be determined exactly in the courtroom what may have determined this person's death. It's just kind of like a report. So, I mean, if you think about it, this media could have just as easily said Max Spears died of pneumonia. Yeah, he had Turkish Xanax in his body, lethal levels of Turkish Xanax. They could have just said any, like, it's like, but we chose to go with the OD story. And I know I'm just making an argument about this. I mean, I'm sure maybe, I'm open to what you think about this. But my problem with this media from the very beginning after his death was the wishy-washiness about that particular topic, and the fact that there's things that have been said that contradict each other from the same people that are talking about it. And when we look at the people who were in control, because media does play a part in cases like journalism. There's a really good Netflix film out right now. It's about that Anna Delvey, that woman that pretended to she took all these people in the high society moneymakers in New York, art world, she pretty much scammed all of them, and but that story and our realization, because I haven't finished the series yet, but our realization of that taking place, and maybe even having sympathy or understanding for the woman who did it, is because a journalist wrote about it. And that what she wrote was tied into, the court case that was taking place. So when you talk about like the power of media, the media could make anything up about somebody or say whatever they wanted without really really going for what the truth is or having a sense of objectivity about it. I think that there's been a lot of people out there that have looked at this as an opportunity to spin a story a certain way to make a certain amount of money. I don't know if it's clickbait. I don't know if it's like whatever it is or whatever it made you ascend to in terms of your credibility for people that, I don't know, are going to want to pay $200 for your psychic energy healings or whatever, because, you're a super soldier or, you were Max Spears' fiance or whatever. But there are people that benefit that way, that when they were reporting the facts of a mysterious death around somebody, they may not have been totally honest in the way that they covered it or the way that they gave you the circumstances. And, because of the fact that I had interviewed Max before, and the fact that I was on Facebook, I was following his last few shows in Poland. I was listening to his last few shows that he was doing on Christine Joanna Hart's show. I was commenting on his Facebook post. Like, one of the last posts that he made was, about the fact that he was going to do a third show. And I even made a comment on that. And then I saw him post things about the director Oliver Stone on his Facebook page. And I saw him say Joseph Mengele and, Mr. Eyebrows. You know who I'm talking about, right? And, calling Sean Stone out for being a Luciferian and stuff, like, before his death. And I'm not here to say Sean Stone's a Luciferian. I don't know Sean Stone really. I don't want to. I'm just because Max posted it doesn't mean that that's my opinion about it. It's just, I'm just telling you this is what was happening like a few days before he died. And when I watched that, and I know I might be repeating things for some people here, but since I am bringing in Truth Seekers and I'm just trying to bullet point those, the important points that I was happy that I got to say, and I'm going to say it again. When I watched the video, which I have uploaded on this channel, the first video of Miles Johnston and Carrie Cassidy talking about Max Spears and giving the details of what was going on, one was the possibility or the rumor that Stuart Swerdlow gave him something, some herbal tablets or whatever that might have affected him. That was one thing that was said on that video. Another thing that I want to point out is the fact that Sandra DeRoy, who was on Sean Atwood's show, called into that show that day and talked about how she was going to go to Poland to work on a film. She was working on a film. She's a filmmaker that was in a film contest through the Basis Project. And it was during that time frame she wanted to put Max in her movie, and she was thinking about flying to Poland. And she says that she was told not to go there because they were going to be doing him in. All right. Now, on Sean Atwood's show, she didn't, and I think this is for a reason, but I'm going to say it because this is my show and I know. She was really talking about Miles Johnston, but that was not said on, Sean's show, probably because, they didn't want to get sued and this and that and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm assuming that might have been a decision, right? And I think they intended, it seemed like when you watch the show, that they had names or people, because the theory is that, first of all, Max's cell phone was wiped and Max's computer was wiped. These are facts. Like I can verify that I have spoken to Vanessa about it. She is confirmed that they were wiped. Now, Monica Duvall was a publisher. And Max was staying there. He had gone to the conference in Poland. He stayed longer because of the fact that they were going to work on publishing his book. And she had published Stuart Swerdlow's work before as well. And, I don't know if you guys would relate to this. I would relate to it because if I were like somebody like Max, or like if you're an entertainer or you're an artist or whatever, you're kind of like, your life is kind of here and there anyways, right? And he had time. This was an opportunity for him. He did, obviously. So I'm theorizing. All right. I'm just throwing it out there. Who else would know what was on his computer but somebody who was like a publisher? I'm just saying that for a second. Who else would know was there or care about what it was? Like, was what he was writing about something that made it bad for him? I mean, that's just one question I have. Like, look, you can go, oh, it's a drug over. Somebody said something in Stephen Cambion's chat. They said, oh, well, they wiped the computers because they were doing the drug deals on the computers. How many people actually really do drug deals by their computer with email? Who the hell would do that? In a foreign country that they don't belong to? Like that, to me, that doesn't even make sense, because like you would have a paper trail of your purchase. What happened, and I have verified this with Vanessa, is that Monica Duvall took him to Cyprus, and that is where the Turkish Xanax was purchased. And she bought it for him. So in a sense, I mean, I think maybe, can we just say that she would be considered an enabler for giving somebody who already had been to rehab of having a drug addiction. It's like, oh, here's the gun. I just put your gun in your hand. I just enabled you to possibly do yourself in. And my problem with the whole Max Spears thing is like, if we saw it, we heard the third video. We heard the third video where he can't breathe and this and that and all this stuff is going on. And it sounds weird. Why didn't this media take any responsibility to get him to a hospital or to realize that he had a problem? And, according to one of the shows that Christine Hart was doing, he didn't show up because he said he had a headache. So obviously he wasn't well. But none of that responsibility goes around to the people that are surrounding him. So the main thing is, the main controversy in terms of what was said on the Sean Atwood show, and it wasn't just said on the Sean Atwood show, by the way. We know that there's a story about how his cell phone was dropped in the bathtub. And that was one of the reasons why the cell phone was wiped. Right? That because it got wet, because there was water damage. And Vanessa wanted the SIM card because thought, well, maybe if I can get a hold of the SIM card, I can save what might be on there. And this is what I've heard, that the story is that Sarah was sexting with him. And she made jokes in this forum about how, I really hope that it doesn't get discovered because, I would have naked pictures, blah, blah, blah of me. And that's part of the story. But when you go to that interview with Carrie Cassidy and Miles Johnston and Sandra DeRoy calls into it, she says that Max was not in a relationship with Sarah at that time. And I think she saw him 10 days before Max died. She said that he was he was clean and sober. He was detoxing, he was taking care of his body, and that he didn't want toxic people in his life, specifically mentioning Sarah. And so my question is, and I've asked this all the time, how did the cell phone drop in the bathtub then? How did that story come about? How did Sarah get associated to it if they were never in a relationship? How? And I think that part of what I'm saying right now is what I really wanted to say someplace, that I really wanted to draw attention to. In the stories that people say about the things that are surrounded about somebody's death. And since I've said that, since I've been asking that for over a year now on it, on that question, I have had Sarah target and harass me in the most horrendous fashion on social media. Even coming into my chat room when I was streaming and accusing me of threatening to rape her, and then saying being blunt is one of my superpowers. So why is this woman so motivated to spend this much time and not only do it, but I don't think she works alone when she does it. Why would she spend so much time? And I want to say one more thing too. I went to Vanessa and I asked her, was Sarah in a relationship with Max before he died? And she said no. And not only did she say no, but she made a video for me to use and upload on my channel with that admission. So I'm not here to say that anybody in this industry, media or whatever, is responsible for conspiratorially being involved with Max's demise. But I am saying, and I am like a watchdog, because every media needs a watchdog. I am saying that the people that have been part of this media, including Mr. Chanter, who shaved his head, have been a little bit complicit. I don't know if that's the right word. but have come up with your own analysis on, maybe you didn't double check your facts. Maybe you didn't think about what was going on specifically. Maybe you did spend some time making videos talking about how he was an addict and how basically because of you, he was able to even wipe his butt. Right? Everybody has a story afterwards, after the fact. I've literally watched, Miles Johnston say, oh, he was clean and sober, to it's going to be his toxicology report will definitely be that he is, intoxicated, to James Rink pulling out a video out of his ass with Max drooling and saying before the toxicology, but right after his death saying, yeah, it was a drug overdose, definitely. I saw this media telegraphing his death. And then all of a sudden the BBC's doing a show about it and it's a mysterious death. And then to actually right now, where on that video that Miles has where he filmed him drunk, that he's been saying this is for research purposes about the things that he's saying, where Miles flat out says that Max Spears was assassinated. So really, Miles, what is it? Was he assassinated, or was he a drunken loser drug overdose person? Because you're all over the place. And what gets me about this is a lot of the people that follow these channels, they don't even question it hardly. It's like, did you not notice that it's not consistent? And so, you still want to think that these people are going to be able to open portals for you and, give you some psychic intuitive healing, and that you're going to, we're all going to ascend to 5-dimensional 3D or something. Well, gee, let's bring up Heaven's Gate again. What part of this is cult-like? Anyway. And one more thing about C.W. Chanter that I have to question about. I hate to be kicking him in the nuts. But you had Taj on your show recently talking about this again. As if it was almost like damage control or as if, because I've invited Taj to my channel to talk about this, but he won't come on my channel to talk about it or clear it up. Or, I'm even gonna anybody right now that I've mentioned, whether it be Sarah, whether it be Taj, or, whether it be, I've mentioned Lee Veltman, or even Jolly Bridgeburner, or any of these people that I've, said things, you want to come on and talk about something and go, oh, we don't really target harass people, or, I know I'm going off on there's several things covering that I've discussed about media, about what this media does, right? Chanter, you want to come on and talk about Taj? Fine. But you came to me and said, oh, I'm going to have Taj on. Is there a way that you might want to go on too? But I was not asked to come on. As if I could ask Taj a question. I have not had the opportunity to have a discussion with Taj. I think when I invited him, Taj said something like, why should I go with a loser like you who lives in a trailer and has no money, or something like that. Yeah, I think that was the response that I got from Taj on it. And so, I'm willing to get to the bottom of it. Is it wrong? Did Sarah not say that it was because they were sexting? And am I perceiving it wrong? Because I'm willing to be wrong in what I think I see. I'm just trying to find the truth to it. If it even really matters. I mean, I think it matters. I think it matters that a media that prides itself on, waking people up or having the real information or giving the truth is failing in doing that. And when thinking about Chanter, about like how he, talked out, against David Wilcock and, and Corey Good and, like the booing on stuff and, Max Spears, he's played in that dialogue of his death, like it was an overdose. Face it, it's an overdose. All of that stuff happening, and, Stephen Cambion calling Sarah out as being a fake grifter. And I'm not supposed to say it, just like Will Smith, you take Jada Smith out of your mouth. Paranormal Hood is telling me, don't you ever say Paranormal Hood in your mouth. But Paranormal Hood, their whole thing is like, we bust the grifters and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Well, then why is Chanter was going to go on Sarah, do a show with Sarah recently. Why aren't you calling Sarah out, CW? Like, it looks to me like you have an alignment, like, oh, well, Corey Good's a fake, but Sarah Rachel Adams is okay. See, I don't see any difference really in, I almost think it's even worse in many ways. So that's my problem with it. Like, are we really here for the truth? Are we really here to like talk about stuff and, like analyze what happened with Chris Rock and how, and Will Smith or anything in the world? Like, are we here to have the grand conversation, or are we here just to like troll and give out misinformation and make up stories so that we can get clickbait? Does it matter? Because it matters to me. And if it matters to you, then, I invite you to, be in my channel, be in the chat, maybe come on the show, talk about stuff, find out what the truth of something is. All right, I'm going to look at what Ben, hi. I've watched a couple of his shows. It matters to me too. It does. I mean, like when I thought about why I became a part, like to me, it's weird that I even went into the UFO thing. Like I've asked myself, what am I doing here? Like how did I get it? How did I get caught up in like Revolution Radio and American Freedom Radio and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Well, initially I was looking for the truth. And I, just like everybody else, I knew something wasn't right. Like what I thought wasn't. And, so I became attracted to it. It was the cannabis thing too. Like when you look at propaganda about the cannabis plant, you realize that our media has been having propaganda for a long time. I got involved in the Occupy movement when it happened, and I documented it in Los Angeles, and I knew the mainstream media was not covering what was really happening. And the social media thing was starting to boom at that time. So, I can't think of anything more important than to say, what, are we being lied to? Is this the Truman Show? I think it's there's a big problem with media, with us, with our freedoms. Like if we don't start talking about it, or at least even if we don't have to agree. I don't want to agree with everybody, but to have that conversation let that bantering go. You know what? One thing I like when you watch Parliament, like in England, and they're all ah, they're all yelling and everything, and here. Like I'm like, yeah, right, yes. You know, that needs to happen. People need to get, and then you know, and then that's how we get to a better culture, to maybe a better world. It's not about stifling the conversation, but you know, tell Susan Wojcicki that, right? Tell that to Mark Zuckerberg. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go through a few things, and then I should get going here. I'm just looking at you. Vanessa told me the same about Sarah Tara. She was very clear about them not being in a relationship. Ben Jama's okay. I think she just posted a video on Odyssey. Odyssey is another channel I might consider, but I don't know. Does Odyssey have the same? It's just the whole BitChute thing, BitChute and like Brighteon. It's like I feel like when you post there, then you know. I don't know, if you wanted to go legitimate, somebody might like, you know, trace you to it and then just assume that you are guilty of hate speech or medical misinformation, and you might not get hired. But I don't know. Charles from Project Camelot, yes, quality, not quantity. Terry, I would. It's free speech site. It's like BitChute, but better in most ways. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've looked at Odyssey. I kind of liked Odyssey's attitude. Like somebody was telling them, you know, this and that, and they go, oh, you know, and they just kind of stuck up for free speech. So, can you live stream? I didn't realize you could actually live stream on Twitter, because that's kind of cool. Everything is changing again. You know, they got Clubhouse, and now you can be on Twitter and you know, talk on Twitter, invite people. You can invite people on Facebook. Everything's starting to shift again. So see where we go. Did you hear that? I saw a video earlier today about the fact that we might totally be going over to digital. Foo Fighters. Oh, yeah. Their drummer died, just OD'd, right? I'm just laughing at that. You guys could read it. Terry was a science fiction story from George Henry Wise in the 1920s. There's another. I remember Edward Lytton Edward Lytton did The Power of the Coming Race, which was a book about the Antarctic and the hollow earth theory with the Uberman theory, the Vril energy. That actually came from a fiction piece originally in 1876, but it spurred a whole thing. That's part of that research I'm doing on the Nazi deal with the Nazis making contact with extraterrestrials. All right, so I should get going. I have to. I have some errands to run. My hair's starting to get dry, so it's probably time to flat iron it a little bit. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Let's see, we got Ben, Charles, Gigi, Mario. The media always are messing around. We know that. Terry's going all Steve mumbling. Yeah. Good night. Good night, Ben. So, and thanks for tuning in. Antarctica is so very formal with almost everyone wearing a tuxedo. That's funny. Yeah, no tuxedos allowed on stage. I'm like, wow, I don't know what to do about that. Oh, I've had I remember one time I was performing, this guy was like way over in the corner. It was a benefit for the Bowling Alley Association, because there was like a bowling alley that would have a comedy night that I was doing, but then there was a whole network, and there were the three of us. There was Vic Dunlap and another comedian was featuring or opening. I was featuring, and I think there was maybe four of us going up on stage that night. We were in Vegas, and we were backstage, and they go, "We saw your tapes, and we're okay with everybody, but we're really worried about her." And they pointed to me, and I go, "What?" And they go, "Yeah, you're just, I go, "Well, what about if I just if I change the words, from the swear words?" "Okay, yeah." But then I did that, but that wasn't good enough. And the guy was like, I was on stage, and the guy was over in the corner. I could see him in the corner of my eye going, "Grr," like he wanted me to get off. Oh, it was awful. That was one of my worst times. And it was a corporate gig too. But my mentor said, "How much were they paying you?" And I go, "They only paid me $250. He goes, "Fuck that. Say whatever you want for $250. If they want you to not say something, then they got to cough up some money at a corporate gig." So, all right, I want to get going. Bye, guys.